So, the topic of my talk is searching for Shuket. So before I start, I'll give you a little bit quick history about my own family tree. So my father, his parents, and his siblings all came to the U.S. in 1913 from Lipovitz in Ukraine. It was Russia at the time, but from Ukraine. My mother's parents and all her siblings, older siblings, came to the U.S. in 1906 from Brutsk, in Belarus. My mother was the first in her family to be born in the U.S. I had no interest in family genealogy until I brought up the subject at a cousin's reunion in 1992. At that time, my cousins were all together, and I told them about Lee Iacocca 10 years earlier had been, at the request of President Reagan, had undertaken a project for the restoration and preservation of the Statue of Liberty in Ellis Island. And this was done through private sector donations. And one of the ways you could donate is you could submit a name of somebody who either came through Ellis Island or just immigrated to the U.S. And you could submit the name along with $100 for each name, and they would inscribe the name on a stainless steel plaque that was put around Ellis Island. And this is what it eventually looked like. So right now they have 700,000 names on Ellis Island on plaques, and I think they only have room for 3 more plaques, which hold several hundred names. So they raised a lot of money to do that. So when I mentioned it to my cousins, they were enthusiastic because either the parents or the grandparents had come to Ellis Island. So I started with my first 14 cousins and my brother, and I asked everybody for money for the memorial inscription, and they also made up a form for them to complete, asking for information for a family tree. So that's how I started my family tree. I had everybody together. I was going to write to everybody, so I figured maybe I could do more than just get a name inscribed on a plaque. So I decided only to put bloodlines and spouses of bloodline relations on my family tree. I didn't want somebody's spouse to find out about their parents and their brothers and sisters, and my tree would grow gigantically. And I decided I didn't really want to do that. I did it in a couple instances with my cousin's wife, and she had 6 sisters, and they had all the siblings and everything. It got to be too much, so I restricted it. So in the 25 years that I've been doing that, I've contacted with relatives in many cities in the U.S., Toronto, Paris, Haifa, Vinnytsia, Kiev, Ukraine, and elsewhere. So right now my family tree has over 1,000 names, right, in 25 years. And about approximately half the people on my tree are still living. Since I'm first generation, so a lot of, we don't really go back very far. So, with 1,000 names, there are no Shukets on the tree. I don't have anybody named Shuket, right? So why am I even searching for Shuket, right? That's a good question. So, in 2009, I visited my cousin Jack in California. Jack's mother was Sarah. My Aunt Sarah was my father's sister, so Jack was a first cousin. And my Aunt Sarah, she had died 13 years earlier, but she was a saver. Just all the correspondence she would say. But I think my cousin Jack had thrown most of it away after 13 years. But he did have, I actually have the photograph. I picked up this photograph. It was in California. And there's 10 people named Shuket on this photograph. And there was a lot of other photographs. And one of them said, to dear cousin Sarah, this is your cousin Izzy Shuket, taken in 1981. And I have others photographs where it said, your cousin Izzy, all right? So how is he a cousin? That's why I started searching. So the first thing, just give you a little historical information about surnames. Jewish surnames were adopted in a mandate in 1804, Tsar Alexander I's edict that appeared on December 9, 1804. And what it stated was, during the census every year, Jews shall have or accept a known inherited family name or surname or nickname that shall be used in all documents and lists without any change, with the addition of a name given by faith or at birth. This measure is necessary for a better establishment of their citizenship, conditions for better protection of their property, and for reviewing litigation between them. So families, a lot of you probably know this, but I thought I'd just give you a little actual history and where it came from. So families adopted surnames based on their occupation or trade, personal traits, names of villages, adoption of given names, etc. So where does Shuket come from? Shuket, Yiddish, it's Shuket, right? Person who performs a ritual slaughter so that meat is kosher is also called Shuket. And that's what it looks like in Yiddish. And over here, it's Shuket in Russian. So before I started my search, I thought if I'm going to be looking for a Shuket, I should really kind of play the roles. So I thought this would enhance my ability to find Shukets. Right? And so actually I only slaughtered chickens. I didn't go for the cows. And so, of course, Shuket is a religious person who had to keep his head covered. All right? And so I started looking for Shukets or Shukets. So I did the traditional things that you would do in doing the search. I put on my genealogy hat and this, and I looked at all these. I'm sure you've all gone through these things: Jewish Gen, Jewish Family Finder, Ancestry, Ship Manifests, all these things. All right. So I'm looking for Zendel's link to Shuket. So before you kind of dive into that, you really have to put in some filters, right? Otherwise, you'll be just overwhelmed with hits, right? So I'm looking for the surname Shuket. Given name has to match one of the, or be close to one of the 10 names on that family photo that said Shuket family. My grandparents is on my father's side, because my Aunt Sarah's on my father's side. They arrived from Lippovitz, Ukraine, so that was a filter. And I put in dates between 1895 and 1925. So as a result of that, I'm just going to show you a few of the hits I got. First of all, we're Shuket, all right? That's the first big problem. Shuket is spelled so many names, different ways. It's with Shukat, Shuket. Each one of these is a different spelling, so you have to be very liberal-minded as to what kind of Shuket you're looking for, all right? These are some of the hits that I got in doing my search. So my grandfather, Max Zendel, has arrived in New York November 18, 1913, with my grandmother, his wife, and Sarah, Sarah that had the pictures, my father, Morris, and a younger daughter, Anne. My family came from Lippovitz. I found a Samuel and Marcus Shuket that arrived from Lippovitz just a few weeks after my grandfather arrived with his wife and kids. So that's possible.
It's probably 19.
No, not choosing 19. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Thank you. I know I was mistaken at some point. I was paying attention. Right? All right. Then there was an Ethel and Yachiel Shuket that came from Lippovitz. That's also some people on that group photograph. Then there was a Max Zendel who was a glazier. And that's my grandfather was a glazier, a guy who works with glass. And Isidore Shuket was a glazier. So he's probably same occupation. In 1913, when my grandparents and my father came, they lived at 637 Tinton Avenue in the Bronx. Max Shuket, on the 1923 Ship Manifest, gave his address at 637 Tinton Avenue in the Bronx. So it looks like it's an apartment house. I went back to look at that when I was in New York about 10 years ago. And the building is torn down and there's something else there. So, he might have been in the same apartment. might have really been a relative, or it might have been in another apartment in the same building. So, and also on Max Shuket's naturalization paper, he showed that when he came to the U.S. originally, his name was spelled Marcus Shuket, which is what I had originally. And so that's the same person that came a few weeks after my grandfather arrived. And he's also stated on that he was living at 637 in. So the problem is, I've got these people that are all dead, you know, and who am I going to talk to find out if there's a link? So the thing is to find somebody, a Shuket, that I could talk to, all right? So one of the places I went is Jewish Gen Family Finder search. And there's a place where people on different towns are searching for people that list their names. My name is listed there, and of course I'm looking for Zendel's. But I found one person that actually there were 70 researchers that are all looking in Lipowitz. The spelling is a little bit different. But there was an Alan Shuket, spelled a little differently, and he was looking for a Shuket also. And so I could click a link, and I could find a real live person, right? So I did this. Just as a little background, Alan Shuket, all right? This is in 2010. He's a professor at Wellesley. He's been searching for his family history for several decades. He's active in the Jewish Genealogical Society of Greater Boston. He loves how to read Russian, right? So I sent Alan an email with a list of my family names, places, and dates, and all the photos I had. And he sent me his stuff, and of course, nothing matched. But, okay. You're going to have a lot of moans as I go through this presentation if you're moaning at this one. All right? One of the pictures I sent to him was another picture of, it said on the side, this is from Izzy Shuket, art store on 2nd Avenue. And so when he saw that, he wrote that. This all happened within a few days after finding it, because he was a true genealogist doesn't let emails just sit around and respond right away. And so on February 7, 2010, he writes back, David, I think I know more about these Shukets, because he's a Shuket. Says, the picture of Izzy Shuket on page 3, this is a whole bunch of pages I sent him, in front of the art store jogged my memory. There is a family of Shukets in New York. Peter Shuket is an entertainment lawyer, and he and my brother Jeffrey Shuket, also a lawyer, once had their restaurant reservations mixed up. Peter's family came from Odessa and had a cousin named Izzy. Izzy spelled his name Shuket, and he had a frame shop on 2nd Avenue. So this looks like the same person. So I got a Peter Shuket that's related to Izzy. I'm still not related to Izzy, but he is, right? And so I called him. All right? First we exchanged emails, then I called him. And so because of that picture, Alan led me to Peter Shuket in New York. I emailed him, and so he writes back after he sees it. This is 2 days later, right? This is very quickly. He says, hey, David, I was also told by my father that Izzy was his cousin, even though he spelled his name Shuket. It is also true about the mix-up in the reservations of the restaurant. And I also remember that Izzy had a son by the name of Joe or Joseph, but I have no idea if he is still alive. How does Zendel fit into the Shuket family? So, still don't know that, right? But it sounds like Peter is related to Izzy Shuket. So, I'll give you a little information about Peter Shuket because it comes into the story later on. So, Peter Shuket is a founding partner of a New York-based entertainment firm in New York. He concentrated in the areas of music law, licensing, and contract negotiations, and the administration of music and related rights for the estates of many of the world's best-known performers. Peter represented and handled the estate of John Lennon, Miles Davis, Jimi Hendrix, Bob Marley, and others. So, a big-time attorney, right? In fact, on his attorneys on the webpage for this firm, there was a video of him talking about what he does. And he's very friendly, very happy. When I called the office, he picked it up and came up with me a second time. So, but anyway, we exchanged all kinds of information, and there's no Zendels or anything. That whole stack of emails that went back and forth. So it's kind of, and then I asked him, well, how about let me talk to your father? And he said, my father died a couple of years ago, and I'm too busy. I'm really not interested in pursuing this. So it kind of got put to the side for 3 years. In August in 2013, Norman and I went to the IAJGS in Boston, and Alan Shuket was one of the speakers. And so I emailed him before, and I told him I would be there, and we went to his lecture, and we talked after, but nothing much came. We kind of established a little relationship. So 3 years have gone by, didn't do anything. This year, on March 2nd, I get an email from Liz Hannon, and she was in touch. She's also looking for Shukets, and she had gotten my name from Alan because I had established a relationship with Alan. There's no reason why she would have contacted me looking on the Lipovitz page and Zendel's. So she contacted me, and I sent her the pictures. And she looked at it, she said, I know this Shukets. She says, Ethel and Samuel were married. They had 5 children. The one on the top is Israel. He was born in 1892. He was drafted into the Russian army, never heard from again. The next one over is Sarah, another child. She got married, she had a daughter Rosa. The next one was Max, you know about Max, and he was married and he had a son Joseph. And then there was Lillian, she was married, she had a daughter Beatrice. And then there's Izzy. Izzy that has been corresponding with my aunt. And she told me that Izzy never married, but he was like the family historian. And the most interesting thing of all is that Beatrice is Liz's mother, right? And that's her grandmother, and those are her great grandparents. You know, where did she wants to know? She said it blew her mind when she saw it. Where did I get these pictures? Right? So we start exchanging all kinds of stuff, and we still don't. She had 3 pages of family members, and no Zendels in it at all, right? So she asked me, she told me interesting thing about Izzy, who's the family historian who never got married. He was observant, and he said Kaddish for people that were friends. His English wasn't too good, but you could be yahrzeit in memory of relatives, friends, neighbors, strangers to remember. And he lists people, Uncle Yoko, cousin Chaika, Uncle Shulam, cousin Israel. And then he puts down relative Zendels. And the name is spelled Z-I-N-D-E-L-S. Doesn't say what kind of relative. And he has my grandfather's Hebrew name, Mordecai Tzvi ben Yaakov, and the right date. So that definitely is my grandfather, no question about that. But it doesn't say what kind of relative, right?
So, it also doesn't have the dates.
No, it has dates. It has dates. It has the dates. This one.
It has the year, but it doesn't have the actual date.
Yeah, but this one actually, this has it has the date over here. For my grandfather, it has the date, but he must have had it on another sheet of paper. This is, I just enlarged it. So I still don't know what kind of relative.
He might not have known. It sounds like it's another.
He might, I don't know. We don't know. So then Liz says, "Have you ever had your DNA done?" I said, "Yeah, I had it done about a year ago." She said, "So did I." And we both use family tree DNA. And so we take a look at the family tree DNA, and that's Liz is Elizabeth, and that's her brother Jeffrey. And it says, like compared to mine, it says second to fourth cousins. So still don't know how. It's not like with your sister. I'm my grandson did it, so we have a lot of the scented mortgages, there's a lot of links, but not with this one. And one of the things on this one is under shared, let's see, X match, it says X match next to her name, which I understand is on the mother's side. And so I wasn't, but I don't completely understand what this is all about. But, so this was back in March and April. That's her brother. Her brother doesn't have the X. I don't know.
Because the brother, so a male gets one X, female gets two X's.
Haven't figured it out. So I was at the in Raleigh in May. The North Carolina Genealogical Society had a big conference, and I was there manning our booth. And Family Tree DNA had a booth there also. So I went over to them with this information to try to explain why it's an X match. Why is it on my mother's side? Because I think it should have been on my father's side rather than on my mother's side. So I did a little research on Lipovitz. Back at that time, there were 4,000 Jewish families living in Lipovitz. And they told me that it's probably because of marriage between cousins. You can mess it up. And so we haven't gone back far enough, but that's probably why that match is. And there were enough Jewish people there that it's very likely that it was cousins. So we still don't have any link, right? Not finished yet, right? I told you about Peter Shuket, and that he was a famous attorney, right?
Right.
I told her to call Peter Shuket. She does, and she finds out he died 3 years ago, right? So, but since he was a famous guy, I figured maybe I could find his obituary. And I did. He was in Music Week and Jazz FM, Billboard, New York Post, New York Daily News, New York Times, and it lists 4 children and 9 grandchildren. And I tell Liz, well, look at his obituary and see if you could contact some of his siblings or his grandchildren. So she's been trying to do that. She hasn't gotten any response from him. So still a mystery. Still not finished. You got to remember Alan Shuket, right? He speaks Russian. He's got contacts. He's looking for people in Kiev. He hired a genealogist researcher to find out if we could find anything in the Lipovitz archives. And so this was in June, right? He says, here's what I've learned about Lipovitz records in the Venus archive from my Kiev contact. There are only 5 metrical books, but I'd like to tell us what a metrical book is. I guess it's like birth, marriage, death, right? In Lipovitz province, and Venus is a city, a large city near Lipovitz. His researcher only found metrical books in 5 little towns, and there's no metrical books there from Lipovitz. So that's the dead end anyway. So we had a lot of interesting things happen in a lot of different places where it looks like I was getting close, but still no cigar. So that's kind of where I am. So I'm still searching for Shuket, but it's been fun. It's been a nice journey. It was nice when I thought I was getting close, but I never got all the way there.
David, here's something interesting. Where's our new member, Michelle? Here. Michelle lists on the back of her membership application, she's looking for Shuket from Kopel, Russia.
No.
We've got another 200,
A lot of Shukets.
200 miles.
Yeah. Well, you can take me. I'm not going to
Thank you, David.